Hey there, how's it going? The first video talked to you about the difference between a long essay and a short essay. This video is going to talk to you specifically about our essay, so the examples are going to be relevant to our essay here. So if you think of an introduction for a long essay, a short essay, it's pretty short, just a general overview. For our essay in particular, though, your introduction might be longer. You can include maybe a hook, so like a story. If part of your research you come along a specific story of a Syrian refugee, maybe you summarize that in a half-page paragraph as a hook to your essay. Or if there's a ton of striking data that you're like, this many people have been affected, this many people are homeless, this many people are stuck in Syria, that could also be a hook, just a bunch of striking data in a shorter kind of hook paragraph. Then you have to dive into the novel and the Syrian refugee crisis. So you want to maybe start with a short summary of what the Syrian refugee crisis is. And that can be a standalone paragraph, or it can be a paragraph where you're also talking about the novel. You also need to summarize the novel, right? Assume that your reader is not familiar with the graphic novel. So you want to provide maybe 4 or 5 sentence summary of the novel, right? And then at that point, you're going to jump into your argument. So you might be looking at starting your actual argument. Your thesis might appear on the second page of your essay, maybe, at the first quarter, halfway through the page, because by the time you give a hook, summarize the Syrian refugee crisis, summarize the novel, introduce your theme, introduce your argument about your theme, introduce your thesis, that's a lot to cover. And so at this point, you're already kind of moving on to the second page of your essay. And that's okay, because again, your essay is going to be 7 pages long. So it's okay to take your time to really get to your argument. When you think about body paragraphs for a longer essay, again, you're diving into the topic. So instead of just having like a paragraph on Syrian refugee children, maybe you have a whole section on that and you talk about how are children being affected in Syria? How are children being affected in refugee camps? How are children being affected in places that they've relocated to, right? That's a deeper dive as you're approaching all three topics rather than just kind of talking about children in one body paragraph. And again, because this is a longer essay, you have the actual space to do that. And so those body paragraphs might be, here's an image from the novel, here's a paragraph with data, here's another image from the novel. But they're all talking about children. And so again, you're kind of looking at diving into the topics and using both evidence from the novel and outside research. But you have more space to really dig into the actual issues with a longer essay. So think about ways that you can approach a topic by digging deeper into it rather than thinking about, oh, let me look for another example. Let me look for another example. Let me look for another example. Think about how can I really tackle this issue and really explain to the reader in depth what's going on here. And that's kind of the difference between the approach to writing a longer paper and the approach to writing a shorter paper. And using this different approach makes it so much easier to write a long paper because you're not just like burdened by looking for more examples, you're looking at really diving in deeper. And once you get into the deep, it becomes easier to think of topics. You're like, well, I really need to talk about children here, and then I also need to talk about children here, right? And so the topics start to become easier to think of, and it becomes a lot easier to write your essay. As always, let me know if you have questions.